Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into another fascinating chapter of the Quran with us.
Always excited to explore these ancient texts, yeah.
Today, we're looking at chapter 15, Al-Hijr.
The rock, right?
Exactly. And I think you'll see why as we get into it. This chapter really struck me with the way it blends these grand, almost cosmic ideas about creation and then zooms in on these very human stories.
Oh, absolutely. You get those prophets like Abraham and Lot, their struggles, their triumphs.
And all against this backdrop of divine power and this constant reminder of Judgment Day.
It's like this intricate tapestry, weaving together cosmology, morality, ancient history. It's all there.
Absolutely. And I think one of the first things that jumps out at you when you start reading chapter 15 is this strong sense of Allah's control over, well, everything.
Yeah, right from the start, it sets that tone. Like in verse 4, where it basically says, no civilization gets destroyed before its preordained time. There's this power, this sense of destiny almost.
I know. It kind of makes you think about all the civilizations that have risen and fallen throughout history.
Right. And it makes you wonder about our own.
For sure. But then you get to verse 19, and whoa, it talks about the earth having these stabilizers and everything growing in this precise, measured way.
That's a verse that gets a lot of people talking. Some scholars, they take it literally. The stabilizers, they say, those are the mountains, which, yeah, they do play a role in the Earth's balance.
Okay, so the mountains keep things from literally falling apart.
Right. But then if you go a little deeper, it could be hinting at something more. The laws of nature, the unseen forces that govern everything, keeping it all in this delicate harmony. It's almost like science meeting spirituality in this really poetic way.
So not just physical mountains, but these unseen forces that maybe keep societies, even whole civilizations from falling apart too.
Exactly. It's a beautiful idea, isn't it?
It really is. And then that kind of connects to this idea of divine providence that comes up later, like in verse 20.
Oh, absolutely. Allah providing for all beings, not just us, all creatures. And then you've got verse 22 with those fertilizing winds, that life-giving rain.
It makes you realize how completely dependent we are on those things.
Well, for sure. Without them, no life, no sustenance. We wouldn't even be here having this conversation.
It's true. I know we take the air we breathe, the water we drink for granted way too often.
It's easy to forget sometimes where it all comes from.
Yeah, really easy. Okay, so we've got this foundation of Allah as the creator, the provider, but then the chapter takes this sudden dramatic turn.
Oh, yeah. Things get pretty intense when we get to the story of Satan.
Right. Refusing to bow to Adam. It's such a pivotal story. But I think for people who aren't super familiar with Islamic tradition, it can be a bit confusing. Why the refusal? What's it all about?
Well, verses 28 to 35 really lay it all out. And it boils down to pride. Straight up arrogance.
Right.
Yeah. Verse 33, really clear about that. Satan thought he was better than humans, superior because he was made from fire, and humans from this humble clay. Couldn't handle that Allah seemed to favor Adam.
So it's like this classic tale of ego and jealousy gone wrong. But I mean, talk about consequences. He's cast out, cursed until Judgment Day. And then that vow to lead humanity astray. That's pretty heavy stuff.
No kidding. Verses 39 and 40, they really drive home his determination to tempt and deceive. It's almost like he's declaring war on humanity.
Yeah, like this cosmic battle is about to go down. But even with that, even with this looming threat, there's this little glimmer of hope.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Allah makes it clear. Those who stay true, those who are sincere in their faith, they'll be protected.
It's reassuring for sure.
Right. Even in the face of all that darkness, there's light. There's this promise of divine protection for those who choose the right path.
It's a powerful message. But it doesn't stop there. The chapter goes on to talk about, well, hell and paradise.
Right. And it lays it out pretty starkly. Verse 43, for example, it describes hell with these 7 gates, each one for a different kind of sinner.
Oh, wow. 7 gates. I can only imagine what those symbolize. Makes you wonder what those categories even are.
It's definitely meant to scare you straight, that's for sure. A pretty vivid warning. But then you get this contrast with paradise. Verses 45 to 48, they paint this really different picture. Peace, security, all the bad feelings, all the resentment, just gone.
I mean, that sounds pretty idyllic.
Right, like pure bliss and this sense of true unity with everyone. But the chapter doesn't just describe these ultimate destinations, heaven and hell. It gives us stories to illustrate the choices that lead people there.
And that's where Abraham and Lot come in.
Exactly. Their stories are like these case studies in faith and consequence.
So let's start with Abraham. What's his story in this chapter?
Well, in verses 51 to 60, we find him hosting these guests who, surprise, turn out to be angels.
Angels in disguise, classic.
Right, and they bring him this incredible news. He and his wife Sarah, they're going to have a son, even though they're really old.
What a powerful message about faith, about trusting in Allah's plan, even when it seems impossible.
Exactly. It's a reminder that with Allah, anything is possible. But these angels, they've got another purpose, a more urgent mission. They're headed to the city, a city drowning in sin, to deliver a warning and to save Lot's family.
Wow, so it's like this reminder that within these big ideas about creation and judgment, there are these very personal stories playing out.
Exactly. And Lot's story, it's one that really gets to the heart of what happens when a whole community rejects the truth.
Okay, so let's talk about Lot. What happens to him?
Well, that's where we see the consequences of widespread wickedness unfold. Verses 61 to 77, they tell the story of Lot and the destruction of his city, Sodom.
Sodom and Gomorrah is a story that's echoed throughout history.
Right, and here it's portrayed in this really dramatic, almost cinematic way. Lot, he shows hospitality to the angels, but the people, they reject the message completely.
Consequences.
Total annihilation, a blast, a rain of stones. The city is completely wiped out. And what's really chilling is that the chapter tells us you can still see the site of this destruction. It's on an existing road, even today.
Like a physical reminder, a warning etched into the landscape itself.
Wow. It makes you think about the choices we make, the legacy we leave behind.
It really does. And it sets up the stage to explore what happens to other communities who reject truth, just like Sodom, which we'll get into after a short break.
It's a pattern, isn't it? You see these other communities mentioned too, like the people of the woods.
Right. And the people of the rock.
Exactly, yeah. Condemned for their disbelief, for going against what Allah had revealed, just like Sodom.
So Sodom wasn't a one-off. It's like this recurring theme throughout history.
It seems that way, yeah. Reject truth, reject divine guidance.
Well, the consequences, they can be pretty severe.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
About
what happens to those who actually embrace truth, who follow that righteous path.
Right, and the chapter doesn't shy away from addressing that. Verse 85, for example, it lays it out pretty clearly. Everything, it says, was created with truth, and that the hour of judgment, it's coming.
So truth is like this foundation of everything, this bedrock. Exactly. It's absolute, unchanging. And that idea of Judgment Day, it really underscores the importance of living your life, making choices that are aligned with that truth.
Living authentically, knowing that our choices, they have consequences, yeah.
Absolutely. Consequences that extend beyond this life, even.
It really makes you stop and think about how you're living your own life. There were a couple of verses, though, that I have to admit I'm still wrestling with.
Yeah.
Like verse 27.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that mentions jinn being created from fire.
Ah, the jinn. Fascinating beings, aren't they?
Well, that's the thing. I'm not even sure what they are exactly.
In Islamic belief, they're these spiritual beings, invisible to us, created from smokeless fire, actually.
So not angels, but...
Not human either, no. There's something else entirely. They have free will, though, just like us.
So they can choose good or evil.
Exactly. They can influence humans, whisper temptations, even possess them in some cases.
Whoa. Okay, that's kind of creepy. But it kind of adds this whole other layer of complexity to the story of Satan's disobedience, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, if jinn have free will, they must be susceptible to those same temptations, right? Maybe that's why Satan's vow to lead us astray. It's so significant. It's not just about humans.
That's an interesting connection. The chapter definitely hints at this broader cosmic battle between good and evil. And maybe the fact that jinn are made from fire, this powerful, unpredictable element, it kind of symbolizes that potential for both, destruction and illumination.
That's a really cool way to think about it. Okay, there was one other verse I want to ask you about, verse 87, the one about the 7 of the pairs. What's that all about?
Yeah, that's a verse that's generated a lot of discussion, a lot of different interpretations. Some scholars, they think it's talking about the 7 heavens and 7 earths that are mentioned elsewhere in the Quran. This idea of a layered cosmos, much bigger and more intricate than we can even imagine.
So it's like this hint that there's way more out there than what we can see, what we can even comprehend.
Exactly. But other scholars, they see the 7 pairs as referring to pairs of opposites in creation, like day and night, light and darkness, male and female, even good and evil.
The duality of existence.
Right. It's a reminder of that balance that Allah has created.
It's a theme that comes up in a lot of different spiritual traditions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That idea of duality.
Yeah.
Makes you think maybe it's through that interplay of opposites that we really understand what it means to exist. But going back to that idea of truth being this foundation of creation, it seems like the whole chapter revolves around that concept, doesn't it?
In a lot of ways, yeah. All those stories, the warnings, the promises, they all seem to point back to the importance of aligning yourself with truth.
Like the stories of the prophets.
Exactly. You see them navigating that pursuit of truth, and then you see the consequences of either embracing it or rejecting it.
And then those contrasting descriptions of hell and paradise, they really drive that point home.
Right. It's like this roadmap guiding us towards a life of meaning, a life that's in harmony with that ultimate truth.
It really is a lot to unpack, isn't it? I keep thinking about all the choices I make every day, all those little decisions, and how they all add up to something much bigger. It's humbling. But amidst all the warnings, all this talk of consequences, there's also this message of hope, of forgiveness, isn't there?
Absolutely. It's important to remember the chapter, it doesn't just emphasize punishment. It highlights Allah's mercy, his compassion. Even those who've strayed, they can find redemption.
So it's never too late.
Never too late to turn back, to seek forgiveness, to choose a different path.
But that makes me wonder, in the context of this chapter, how do you actually repent? Is it just saying the words, or is there something more to it?
It's more than just words, that's for sure. Remember that verse 86, the one about Allah being the all-knowing creator?
Yeah, I remember.
It's a reminder that he sees everything.
He knows our hearts.
Exactly. So true repentance, it goes way deeper than just saying you're sorry.
So it's about actually changing your behavior.
It's about recognizing where you went wrong, understanding how your actions, they affect others.
Taking responsibility, yeah.
Exactly. And then making a conscious choice to do better, to align your heart, your intentions with the truth that Allah has revealed.
So it's about a transformation from the inside out.
You got it. It's not just about avoiding punishment. It's about wanting to be better, to reconnect with Allah, to live a life that's pleasing to him.
It's beautiful, really. That idea that even when we mess up, even when we stray, we can still come back.
Allah's mercy is always there, always available for those who genuinely seek it.
You know, it's amazing. As we've been talking about all this, about creation, about consequences, about jinn, about paradise, I keep coming back to that verse, the one about Allah being the all-knowing creator. It's like it holds the whole chapter together, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It reminds us that there's this higher power, and even though the universe is vast, it's complex, he understands it all.
And he created us. He sustains us.
And guides us toward that truth, toward righteousness.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. This whole chapter, it's been quite a journey. I feel like it's really challenged me to think differently about things.
It's always like that with these deep dives, isn't it?
It is. It's humbling, but also inspiring. And I think if there's one thing I'm taking away from this deep dive, it's that we're not alone in this.
Absolutely. Amidst all the chaos, all the uncertainty, there's this divine plan unfolding.
And our choices matter. They matter more than we probably even realize.
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? We have this free will, this ability to choose our own path.
Right. And to seek guidance, to seek forgiveness when we need it. Well, this has been a truly fascinating exploration of Chapter 15, Al-Hijr.
It's been a pleasure diving into this with you.
Likewise. And for our listeners out there, I hope you found this deep dive as thought-provoking as we did. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and until next time, may your journey be filled with knowledge, growth, and a deeper connection with the divine.